Hello, and welcome to this video on setting up the ODBC connection between Instrument Manager and EP Evaluator. A separate video will be produced that will cover how to actually perform a query in EP Evaluator to pull data in from Instrument Manager. The setup requires that you have Instrument Manager installed and licensed for ODBC connection. That is a separate licensable feature. You also have to have your EP Evaluator installed and activated before you can set up the ODBC connection. Assuming that you have all that done, let's start with with Instrument Manager and what we need to do in order to get it set up and ready for ODBC. First of all, we need to go into Security, Users and Groups, and then go into group configuration so that we can establish an ODBC group. I'm simply going to call the group ODBC. The connection description can be simply ODBC for EE, though in all actuality ODBC can be used by other programs as well. Once we have saved that group, we can highlight it, come over here on the right hand side where it says ODBC, click on the Select All icon, and then click on the green enabled flag. What this does is it then establishes that this group has access to all functionality within ODBC, and that's exactly what we need it to do. So we will click Save. Now understand that you can set up administrators or any other group that you want to have access to ODBC. It is recommended that you do it as a separate group, and that way you can give it to people that may already be established in your system, or you can give it to individuals that don't necessarily have a need for any other functionality within Instrument Manager other than to be able to do the ODBC query. It's up to you how you configure it, but you do need to have an individual that need to have a group established, and then you have to establish an individual that will be used by EP Evaluator in order to access the data within Instrument Manager. So in this case, I'm going to call it ODBC default, simply as the user's name. And then I will make them part of the ODBC, a member of the ODBC group. Once I save that configuration, I go into that user, I right click, and I can do set password. It's very important that you establish a password for this individual and that you remember what it is, because you will need that information when you go to set it up in EP Evaluator. Once that has done and saved, again, you save the configuration, and that takes care of the setup within Instrument Manager. So now let's go over to EP Evaluator. I'm demoing this in EP Evaluator 12, professional version. It does require the professional version in order to establish the ODBC connectivity. The steps I'm demonstrating also apply to EP Evaluator version 11, professional. So it doesn't matter whether you have 11 or 12, these steps will be the same. You need to go into a module in order to access the ODBC functionality. I usually go into Simple Precision simply because it's the first one on the list. Once you're in here, you can click on the RRE, which stands for Rapid Results Entry. Second entry is your ODBC data acquisition. Once you've clicked on this, you'll need to click on the DSN button. What this does is it allows you to manage these connections. If there had been another connection already set up or another data source set up, it would show here, as there is no other source set up already. I'm going to click on the Add button, and a list of available data sources shows up. What you want to do is choose the ODBC InterSystems ODBC. That's the one that is used by Instrument Manager. When you click on Finish, it's then going to come up and ask you for some information. You need to name your source. I'm just going to call it ODBC. Description is ODBC for IM. Again, you can put in anything you want. Under the host IP address, this is where the Instrument Manager lives. This is the IP address of that server. It will default to what is the home address, which indicates that both Instrument Manager and EP Evaluator are installed on the same server. In this case it is, in your case it may not be. So if they are on separate servers, you certainly can do that. You simply put in the IP address of the Instrument Manager system. Port 1972 is there by default, and that is what is required. You should not change that. Cache namespace is IM, and this is where you put in the information that you typed in Instrument Manager. One last thing is to click the Disabled Query Timeout button. This is particularly important if your Instrument Manager and EP Evaluator are installed on separate servers, as there's some network latency that may cause a timeout in the query. Once all this is done, you click on the Test Connection button, and you will get a message that basically shows you all the information that you typed in, and then hopefully you will see a connectivity test completed successfully. This means it was able to establish a connection between EP Evaluator and the Instrument Manager cache database. If you do not get this message and you get another troubleshooting message, you'll need to go through a troubleshooting process in order to establish it. But if you follow these steps, you shouldn't really have any problems. Simply click OK to get out of the system, and now you're ready to actually perform a query. As I said, that will be in a separate video. Hope that you found this helpful. Remember, this is a one-time setup, and you do not need to do this more than once it's established, unless of course you move servers or change servers on either product. Then you'd have to go through this process again. Thank you, and I hope you found this information useful.